It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, who does actually strive to do the deeds. Welcome to the Vantage Point. I'm your host, Taylor Chapman. U.S. Army retired Major General Chuck Anderson. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You just wrote a book. It's called The Man in the Arena, Just Show Up. And we're going to kind of discuss some key topics in this book. We're going to go over your career and just kind of get some people motivated, because I feel like there's a lack of motivation out there right now. So,
okay.
What does this quote mean to you, and why did you put it on the back cover of your book? Well,
I tell you what happened. The first time that I saw that quote, I had to memorize it. I was a fourth classman at West Point. I'm in the class of 1980. So in 1976, as a fourth classman, we had to memorize that portion of Roosevelt's speech, which he performed in 1910 at the Sorbonne in Paris, France. And we had to memorize that portion. And when I graduated, I hand wrote it on a sheet of paper, put it in one of those old award frames that the government used to have, the plastic frame with the glass. And it was on my wall for the next 32 years. Okay, the Man in the Arena pitch is something that I absolutely admire, and I've basically have followed my life with.
So when we say arena, it's kind of an allegory for life. But how would you define arena? When you think of arena, what comes to mind? What do you imagine?
Well, when I think of arena, I think of that's where all the action takes place. It is a location. It's a location that could either be at work, it could be on the football field, it could be as a mom or a dad. It's actually the location where you need to be, where the action is at. And so the arena can be depicted in many ways. But my point of it all was it's best to be in the arena and not in the cheap seats, pointing fingers on how the strong man stumbled.
Yeah. Who usually sits in the cheap seats, would you say?
Well, and you're always going to have people in the cheap seats that are pointing out. And I think in today's world, there's no empty seats in the arena. Okay. We need more people in the arena, vice being in the seats.
Everyone feels like an expert in the cheap seats, right? That's where all the criticism comes from.
Exactly. And that's not going to change. You're going to have people pointing out things you should have done, things shoulda, woulda, coulda, all that. You're going to have that. But if you're in the arena and you do make mistakes, you're going to be better the next time, and then the next time. Okay, you get better over time. And after a while, being in the arena, you become what I believe is a Spartan. And that's when you know you've made it, is when you're a Spartan in the arena and you know what right looks like. Okay, then you know you've made it.
You touched on failure a little bit. So like I had mentioned, you were a major general, progressed through the ranks successfully, made a career of the military. You had to have had some failures at some point in your career. So how have you grown to view failure throughout your career? And at what point does it go from a setback to an actual lesson learned?
Yeah, I tell you, before I answer that, I would like to, first of all, there are things called what I call inflection points, okay? And as you go through life, you go through a handful of these inflection points. You don't know when they're going to occur, but what they do is they change the trajectory of your life. It could be positive or it can be negative. It could be a person that you meet. It could be an action. It could be something that you've encountered. And I tell you, those inflection points only happen if you show up. They only happen if you're in the arena and you show up. Okay? And I'll tell you that what got my attention, I've had some inflection points in my time. And one of them was my high school football coach. And which I'll never forget. We were playing this number one rated team in Kentucky, and in the locker room, our coach, Coach Herb Conley, usually talks to the offense, then he talks to the defense. Instead, he spoke to everybody. But in the front row, he made the kickoff team take a seat. And he talked to the kickoff team, and he said, when you run downfield, I want you going full speed. If a blocker gets in front of you, don't go around it. Go through the blocker so you're not creating a gap for the runner to exploit. If you get knocked down, you get back on your feet, and you keep going until you hear the whistle blow. Little did Coach Conley know that speech that he gave that day in 1975 impacted so many people in that room that for years later, the running down the field, perseverance, getting knocked down and getting back up, resiliency. Mm-hmm. Those two words, which I call today my body armor, is two incredible attributes that you got to have to be able to fight in the arena. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I still keep in contact with Coach Conley. And I tell you, there are days you're going to get knocked down and you got to get back up.
Yeah.
There's going to be days where there's obstacles in front of you. You don't avoid them. You solve them. You fix them. And you keep going. And so I tell you, this whole thing about showing up, it's about perseverance and resiliency too. And it's your body armor. You as an individual, and you prepare yourself to improve your resiliency, okay? And, your ability to get back up when things don't happen well, or your ability to solve problems and not go around them and avoid them. You do that, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. That quote goes on, if I could just read a bit more of it, because I think it encompasses exactly what you're hinting at. And who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Right.
And I think, like you're saying, showing up, people don't show up. They don't put themselves in the arena because they're scared of that defeat aspect, right. But they don't understand that you have to expose yourself to the potentiality of being defeated in order to succeed. So talk a little bit more about this, like times in your life when you've felt defeated maybe, but how you've transformed them into these lessons learned. Because I think that's a huge lesson that needs to be learned these days. Right. You shouldn't be scared of failure. You should rush to failure so that you can learn the lesson and then keep running forward. You know what I mean? Right.
There are going to be times where you're going to fall short. And there was a procedure that we used in the military. It's called the After Action Review, the AAR. What happened, what should have happened, and what can you do better next time? What should you do to be better next time? And that simple AAR became a component of my culture. And any organization I'm in, that becomes a part of the culture of that organization. So when we do fall short, we do sit down, we figure out what happened, what should have happened, what can we do better next time? And we develop policies, people get educated, people get organized, so it doesn't happen again. But I tell you what, we're much better. We are much better than we were. I remember one time that we lost this big contract, one of my companies, and it was ugly. It was sad. And then one of the finance, the pricers came in and made a mistake in the pricing. And I went, wow. And he basically admitted that he made an error that contributed to us losing the contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him and I said, well, what are we going to do better next time? And he came up with a plan on how we're going to, have another set of eyes, look at the pricing, do more scrutiny on the pricing. And I thought that was good. And one of my peers goes, well, are you going to fire him? And I looked at him and said, no. I said, I almost thought about promoting him because he actually told the truth and came up with a plan so it wouldn't happen again. And guess what? It never happened again. Okay? And no, I'm not going to fire him. I want to get out of my chair and run up and hug him and say, thank you. Thank you for telling me. Now we know what happened. Okay? So I tell you, these things that happen, whether in the military or in business or in your activities of daily life, getting feedback on what works and what doesn't work helps you in the long term to know what right looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know what right looks like, and it doesn't happen overnight now, it takes failures, it takes success to get to knowing what right looks like. And when you could do that, okay, you're going to be valuable.
Mm-hmm.
You're valuable, not only to yourself, your family, but to others.
It's a very wise way to go about leadership. I feel like it's very common. I spent my time in special operations in the Army, and I even had leaders who were quick to fire people. Later on my time on a Special Forces ODA, making mistakes was acceptable because it meant you were learning, like you're saying. So instead of being fired, we were kind of encouraged, like, good for you. You messed up. You learned how to do it, how not to do it, maybe a couple ways on how not to do it.
Right.
And in the process, you learn how to do it. So I just wonder how many people get fired, both in the corporate world or in the military, get demoted from things that were actually just supposed to be lessons in their career to further advance them.
Right.
And I think as a leader, if you kind of build that reputation of just quickly firing people who mess up, people are now scared to mess up, which creates a kind of a hostile work environment, an anxious work environment, and then more mistakes probably happen. So how would you say people under you throughout your career in the military would describe you as their leader?
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, I understood mistakes, but what I did was make sure that we put emphasis in making sure it didn't happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did, we trained, we educated, we adjusted processes. Heck, sometimes it dealt with me. I had to give better guidance. I had to do a better job. You know what they say, when you point a finger, there's three pointing back at you.
Mm.
Okay. And so, when you're trying to solve a problem, you fell short on the objective, you got to pull people together, come up with the ways to fix it, some solutions, practice it, work it hard. And guess what? You're going to win next time, or at least be a lot closer.
How important is listening to you?
Yeah. Some of the best leaders I ever met in my military career and business career, the best ones I've met talked less. When I was in the Pentagon, one of the 4-star generals we had, we would come to a meeting, have the meeting. He barely talked. He listened. But when it came time to ask questions, they were piercing questions. They were very, very good. The reason why they were very good, because he listened during the entire presentation and didn't talk until the end. And his questions were so fantastic. And it was like, wow, how did he come up with that? But I think listening has become a skill set that has drifted over the last decade or two. Mm-hmm. And to be a good leader, you got to know how to listen. Mm-hmm. You got to, what I call squinting with your ears. You got to squint with your ears. And those leaders that can squint with their ears and listen and take it in, write it down, ask questions. Okay? Those are the ones that can contribute the most.
Why do you think people talk more than they listen? What do you think that kind of psychological programming, maybe? I have my own theory here, but why do you think people are so excited to say more rather than just sit back and listen?
Well, that would probably be a good study to do sometime. But but I would believe that people that like to talk want to make sure their guidance is out and making sure that their experience is understood. And so they want to position themselves as, oh, I've done this before. I'm the leader. I got it. No. As a good leader, let your folks tell you, let them identify problems, identify solutions, and then coach and mentor at the end. Mm-hmm. Give feedback to the end. And I really think that when you listen, it's also courtesy. I think good listeners are also humble, which I think is an incredible attribute that has gone up the scale in the last 20 years of what we're looking for out there in leaders. Mm-hmm. Good listeners, humble leaders. I tell you, those are leaders that are going to go a long way. Those are leaders that are going to have tremendous impact on their organizations.
Mm-hmm. I enjoy stories to kind of emphasize examples. So throughout your career, maybe think back on a time when you had someone beneath you that kind of admired you and you watched them kind of follow in your wake and become a leader that you were very proud to have influenced.
Yeah.
Does anyone come to mind?
Oh yeah. I've got, there are several soldiers young soldiers that I've had that retired, as sergeant majors, and there are officers. There are lieutenants that I had when I was a battery commander, Fort Stewart, Georgia. One retired as a colonel, the other retired as a 2-star. They were in my battery, 2 of the platoon leaders. And the first sergeant retired as a sergeant major. And, that's when you've had an impact, is when your subordinates do well. I tell people that they always go, well, how do you know you did well in the military? I said, well, let me tell you how you know you did well. It's not by the rank that's on your collar when you retire. It's not what is written in your efficiency reports that you've got in your file cabinet somewhere in the back. It is basically how many people still reach out to you when you're no longer in uniform. If you've got people reaching out to you, that means you are a good leader. That means you had an impact on others. That OER is whatever's written on those things in the last file on the top cabinet. That's not it. Mm-hmm. The box that has the shadow box with all your ranks and ribbons. That's not it. It's going to be those young troopers that call you up and want to know how you're doing. Mm-hmm. And they want to tell you what they're doing. Okay? That's because they cared about you.
I'm trying to think. I had a leader. I've had many leaders in the military, of course. I have one. I was a very young private into E4. He was First Sergeant Sean Prather, EOD technician. Mm-hmm. All through the Afghan war and Iraq war, was over there disarming bombs and IEDs. He was one of the most decorated people I've ever seen. I've never seen so many ribbons and badges in my life. And he never talked about it. Right. And First Sergeant that came before him and after him always talked about his deployments and his schools and his experience and his divorce and all this stuff. And Sean would just sit and listen to us. He wanted to know what we were thinking because he was once in our seat. He was once a private, right. A specialist with a basic EOD badge on his chest. And he just wanted to sit there and listen to us. And I was young and not wise at the time, but looking back now, a little bit later in life, I valued that so much. And I still think about him to this day. This has inspired me. I need to reach back out to him, but he is one that absolutely inspired me because, like he said, he squinted with his ears.
Yes.
A term that I will now use if you don't mind. Going back to that quote, this quote really fires me up. The man in the arena is not accoladed for winning. It's for daring to strive. Yeah. So how has your vision or perspective on effort versus outcome evolved over time?
You know, when you're in the arena, one thing for sure, and you're in an organization, you lead an organization, you encourage to get your people in the arena.
Right.
And when you select people to join your organization, and it takes me back to Good to Great, the book Good to Great by Collins, where he talked about getting the right people on the bus in the right seat. Mm-hmm. And I've used that my entire both careers, is to get the right person on the bus in the right seat. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, okay, you get people in the arena that work together as a team, and and you as the senior leader, you've got to set the results that you're looking for. What results do you want that team to accomplish? Mm-hmm. And how are you going to get there? The how is the strategy. The results are the objectives that you're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And I think you learn that in the military.
For sure.
You learn that in the military. And you come out and they teach it at Harvard. They teach it at all these major universities. You're going, we did that every day.
Yeah.
We did that every day. You go to the Bradley range. You had results that you were trying to accomplish. And your strategy, the train up for that range that went on for weeks and months to get ready for it. Okay? I just took that template and put it in the civilian world. You know, how many sales do we want by the end of the quarter? What do we want for our profit or EBITDA? Okay. How many days sales outstanding are we willing to accept? And you just get that business terminology and using the military framework. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've used throughout, even to the point of we had Commanders Critical Information Requirements in the military, CCIRs. Mm-hmm. Well, I get in the civilian world, I go, I think we need to have those, but I can't call them that. So I called them information requirements. So for finance, safety, security, quality, HR, they would have 2 to 3 IRs. And if they were triggered, you had to send it to me in the 5W format. Who, what, when, where, why. And they were looking at it and go, where did you do this before? It's called the United States Army. And we just translated that to the civilian world. Mm-hmm. And guess what? I knew about everything that took place. In other words, you don't find out about something that's absolutely ugly 6 months later.
Right.
You know about it when it happens, to the point where you can almost fix it. Mm-hmm.
Was there so you kind of covered some aspects of the military that helped you out. Was there any aspects of the military that you kind of had to rid yourself of? Any, conditioning from the military where you kind of had to forget that and leave it behind in order to succeed in the military?
No.
Or, I'm sorry, to succeed in civilian life.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell you, I really didn't change. If anything, I probably had to tone down a little bit. But not much.
So delivery.
Because I got to tell you, no matter if you're in uniform or out of uniform, people are looking for good leadership. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. People are looking for good leadership. And even the younger generation that's coming up is looking for good leadership. And that's where, as a leader, you got to be humble for today's young people coming up, because they've got radars on them that could pick up a person that's not humble. Mm-hmm. And when I say humble, I'm suggesting you don't think less of yourself. You think of yourself less.
Expand on that.
And if you can display that and back it up, they'll follow you anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, explain that a little bit. Say it one more time.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting you think of yourself less, but you think less of yourself.
Okay. Yeah. What does that mean to you?
What that means is that you're not sitting in a staff meeting talking about the vacation you're going to go on. You're not talking about the size of your house in front of people. Okay? You're not talking about things that, the younger people, they don't want to look at arrogance. They don't need arrogance. What they're looking for is good leadership. What they're looking for is someone to talk to them. Okay? Someone to understand them, to listen to them of what's going on. And I tell you, the people, the young people today, they're looking for a humble leader.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for somebody that listens more than they talk.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to learn this trait, or was this something you kind of always possessed? Maybe you were in your upbringing taught it.
I tell you, I've always had those traits, but they weren't in the top. I mean, they weren't in the top 5. Okay. I basically, once I went out to the workforce and I took a snapshot of it and then looked at our objectives and our strategy. You guys, as a leader, have got to be able to lead in that type of atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And so, during COVID, I mean, we had some big challenges in our company over COVID, and we overcame them. Mm-hmm. How did we overcome them? We brought everybody in the room. We started, developing another strategy with a different set of goals. And guess what? They worked.
Mm-hmm.
They worked. I think also when you bring people in to help you develop the base goals and stuff, they feel proud to be there. And they also want to contribute. And I tell you what, if they got their fingerprints on one of the objectives, guess what? They're going to accomplish it.
Mm-hmm. I told you earlier, I had a platoon sergeant, Jason Ward. I was a probably 19-year-old, been at the unit for a month maybe. And I was a very responsive young EOD technician. Mm-hmm. I thought I knew everything in the world. And this he was an E7, been all through Iraq war, deployed probably 9-10 times, survived. And he looked me dead in the eye. This was probably in 2010. Mm-hmm. So we were still allowed to be a little bit rough on each other. He looked me right in the eye and he said, "You need to listen to understand, not respond. You're responding, and I need you to listen."
Yes.
And that was a defining moment in my life.
Yep.
And I've really taken that to heart pretty much through the rest of my career.
Yep.
Turned into I always want to be the dumbest person in the room. There's always something to learn. I don't always need to be responding.
Yep. See that's an inflection point.
That's
what I'm telling you that happens. My platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Rufus Allen, I still talk to him.
Mm-hmm. Good leader.
We'd have. I was in the 101st Airborne Division. I carried it was a 45 caliber pistol. That I was a platoon leader. Had 45 caliber. We'd have the M60 range. My name would be on it. We'd have the 203 range grenade launcher. My name would be on it. The 50 cal, the Vulcan. And I'd go up to the platoon sergeant and go, "Platoon sergeant, I don't carry those weapons." He looked at me and goes, "Well, what happens if we go to war and you need to be able to carry the M60? And one of our M60 crewmen is injured or wounded, in worst case, dead." He goes, what, I may need you to carry the M60. And so he had me qualify, certify with every weapon, be able to take it apart and assemble it and clean it. I had to be certified.
Mm-hmm.
And what he would say is, he goes, on those ranges, the soldiers are going to see if the lieutenant shows up, and you need to show up. And then in the motor pool, we had all this equipment. And he goes, "Saturday morning, can you be in the motor pool?" I go, "What are we going to do?" He goes, "I'm going to teach you how to do maintenance checks on the 5-ton vehicle." I'd go down there. He'd have the manual. We'd have the documentation. He would spend 2 to 3 hours to teach me how to do it. The next weekend, it was another vehicle. And he wasn't trying to teach me to be a mechanic. Don't get that. He was trying to teach me to have knowledge of all the equipment in our platoon, all the weapons in our platoon. So when I showed up, I brought something to the table. He was an inflection point in my life because what he did, he emphasized the whole idea that this book presents, and that is being in the arena, showing up and being prepared, not just showing up. You got to be prepared. You got to have the technical expertise and all. And that's what he did for me.
Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit more about preparing, because that's a great point. As an enlisted soldier, it was always the officer who knew what we were doing. He knew the TTPs, he knew the weapons, he knew how to do inventories. Even though he didn't have to, he knew how to do it. And that resonated with us, lower enlisted E6s, E7s. And so that's a great point, a huge inflection point. But talk to me a little bit more about preparation. We were talking about earlier about, preparing for a meeting. How important is that?
I got to tell you that one of the things that cracks me up about the civilian industry is you'll hear somebody say, "Hey, Chuck, my calendar has got nothing but back-to-back meetings." And when I hear that, I look at it, I go, okay. When do you prepare for those meetings? Or you just show up and
not in a good
listen
way.
and just write down notes or whatever. And because even in the hybrid environment that we're in, and by the way, this hybrid environment's not going away. And so how do you show up in a hybrid environment? One is that you don't have meetings back to back. You've got to put on your calendar, your digital calendar, your prep time. If you got a meeting, it's an hour. Your prep time should be 15 to 30 minutes of prep time. And what I call it in the book is prepare on paper. I call it POP. That means you get a piece of paper out, you write down the meeting title, and you write down facts, assumptions, questions. You write those down. So when you come to the meeting, you show up. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean? You're prepared. You're engaged. You're emotionally ready to go. All right? Because if you don't, you will do what most people do in companies. They show up to a meeting, they ask questions, there are no answers because no one's prepared, and you got to have another meeting.
I was just going to say, you schedule another meeting.
You got to do another meeting. And so I tell you, this whole notion of preparing on paper, old school, you can get one of the laptops or whatever, but you got to be prepared to have your stuff together before you show up for that meeting. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, it works. It does work.
I want to circle back just real quick. I thought of another question. I had asked you if these traits had always been a part of your life. How important is the role of parents in this whole ideology of showing up?
I'll tell you, I was third classman at West Point. They call him a yearling. And I told my dad over the phone that I was thinking about leaving the academy. Matter of fact, I was really close to just submitting my paperwork and getting out. Because if you're going to get out and not have a commitment, you got to do it before your second year is complete, or before you start the third year. And so I was going to resign. We lived in Ashland, Kentucky. He gets in the station wagon, drives all the way to West Point, sleeps at rest stops on the way up, gets to West Point. I get to see him for about 45 minutes. Okay. And I didn't have leave or anything. He came on. I got to walk out and talk to him for about 45 minutes. And he gave me a gazillion reasons why I should stay. And then he got in his car and drove all the way back. Then just think about that inflection point right there. Inflection point convinces me to stay in the military, serve 32 years, retire as a major general. Why? It was because of a of a dad. It was because he showed up. He actually showed up and came up and talked to me about it. And it was a great conversation. And every time I got promoted in the military, I always thought my parents, because in a football game, they came to every game. My dad would come to every practice. My mom and dad were not interested in glittering gold. They were not interested in big houses and fancy cars and all that. So they would get jobs that were commensurate, that would give them enough time to be a damn good parent. Mm. That was number one on their list. And so as a parent, they showed up. They were there. And I was at a high school football game about 4 weeks ago. And I looked at the visitor side. I knew the visiting team was about 45 minutes away. There was about 25 people in the stands. And then on the home side, about 1/3 of the seats were empty. And you look at the age groups, and you see a lot of younger people that go to the school. And, parents have got to show up. I think parents alone are inflection points in people's lives. Mm-hmm. And if they show up with their kids, the outcomes will be a lot better than they ever anticipated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it could be a good or bad inflection point, though. Yep. Wouldn't you say?
Well, it's. I think if you don't show up, if you're not there, I think you leave it. You leave it to others to be influencers. Yeah. Moms and dads are influencers. They shape. They help they help them see the light, I guess, and what's right or wrong. Mm-hmm. The thing also is that I think parents, what they also do is they put in their kids' culture that you want to be the best version of yourself today. I can't tell you how many times people come up and go, "Hey, do you sit down with your kids and kind of map out a strategy on where they want to be in 5 years?" I go, no. I tell my kids I want them to be the best kid tomorrow. Yeah. I want you to be the best kid tomorrow. Because if you do that, then it's going to keep building on, and then you'll reach your goal. Mm-hmm. If someone would have came up to me as a second lieutenant and goes, "Hey, Chuck, did you think that you were going to be a general?" That was never even in my lexicon. All I wanted to do is to be the best lieutenant tomorrow. And when I woke up, went to PT, I was going to do my best at PT, and then go to the multiple and do my best at the multiple. Yeah. You got to focus on near-term targets. And that's all about showing up.
I would like to take a brief moment to thank our sponsor, Optum. Optum offers 9 primary and 7 specialty care clinics throughout the Pikes Peak region, all designed to cater to your health close to home. At every Optum primary and pediatric location, integrated behavioral health services are there to support your overall well-being. Your Optum primary care physician leads your care team, working with other specialized clinicians to focus on your health as a whole. And remember, choosing the right health insurance is essential to meet your financial and health needs. The Medicare annual enrollment period is happening now through December 7th. This is your chance to enroll or make changes to your current plan to ensure you have the coverage you need. If you have any questions, talk to a licensed insurance agent or visit optum.com/mycare before December 7th. I think I'm doing some research. I wouldn't say it's research, but just studying in psychology right now about the role of parenting. And you kind of have 2 types of parents. You have more of the helicopter type, controlling parent. And then you have an enabling parent that just wants to see their kid kind of create their own sense of autonomy and their own learning processes. And do you have any input on those 2 different types of parenting? This is kind of just for my own little curiosity. But
I tell you, it's but again, we've already talked about resiliency and perseverance. You start that off with young kids, and you get them into. I grew up in an era where you had to play baseball, football, basketball. You had to play. And I would look at my dad and I go, Dad, I do not like baseball. He goes, you're going to play. Because it was more than just playing the sport. It was being on a team.
Yeah.
It was being around others. It was about, oh, you got to show up for practice. Oh, you got to show up for the game. Oh, if you get on the field, you want to do the best. You want to be the best version of yourself when you're on the field. Mm-hmm. And so you learn those things through sport. And I tell you, having dads and moms kind of push their kids, I tell you what, I think it's good. I think it's good to encourage. But the helicopter, correcting everything, no. I think that's where you just kind of back up. Let them make mistakes, because don't forget, you're teaching them when they do make mistakes and they do pick themselves up and they go at it again, perseverance. And you want your kids to be a ball. When things go south, you want that ball to bounce. Mm-hmm. You don't want them being an egg that when they fall, they crack.
Yeah.
Okay. And the way you become a ball, you do it on your own. You got the parents watching, but they're not in there guiding you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a child's got to create its own sense of autonomy. Yeah. I kind of experienced both of that growing up, but I'm just grateful for the times I was kind of left to my own devices. You know what I mean? Because I think if you have a child whose parents are very overarching, they want to kind of calm the seas for their child to go venture out into the ocean rather than helping them prepare and build a proper boat to go out into seas that could get rough eventually. I just don't think that sets a child up for success. Yeah. And I think you do the same thing in the military as a leader. You can't micromanage your troops, even if they're privates. You got to let them mess up. You got to let them make their mistakes. Just like those individuals, you said you didn't fire them. You wanted to promote them. Yeah. They were building their sense of autonomy, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm curious about human nature a little bit. If you want to get into philosophy and psychology real quick, you've led a lot of both soldiers and people in the corporate environment. What have you learned specifically in the military about human nature leading soldiers in life or death situations? When soldiers and people are under that fear, the grasp of a life or death situation, how have you seen people behave or react, kind of their human nature when they're in those situations?
Yeah. When you're in a life and death situation, or when you're in environments where bad things can happen, teamwork becomes so imperative. And it becomes, and everybody realizes that they train as a team. Then they go to war and they go, yep, this is, now I got it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not necessarily the physical piece or the technical piece. It's the emotional. Teamwork in the emotional environment. It really, I think, carries the way. Yeah. And how do you do that? You train as a team, and you know your people, you know your soldiers, you know that they're married, how many kids they have, you know about them. And when they have problems, that problem becomes your problem. You got to help them. Mm-hmm. If they need help, you help them. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, you turn a soldier's life around. I tell you that I had a soldier one time came up positive for a drug test. Everybody wanted me to throw him out of the military. And I just said, I'm going to give him a second chance. And so we gave him a second chance. If it happens again, you're gone. And that person made good rank, very good rank. And to this day, he attributes that, he got a second chance. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you need a second chance. And you need coaching and mentoring that comes with it, that gets you going in the right direction. And I think also sometimes you go in the wrong direction because the people that are around you. And as leaders, you got to assess that. You got to make sure that soldiers that need help have got good people around them. Mm-hmm. Because that's a huge influence. Yeah. And again, that it gets back to the power of the mom and dad. Moms and dads have got to be good mentors and coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, personally, my first deployment to Afghanistan was in 2015, and I had a team leader at the time, Joe Carruthers. We were the same rank, more or less, or same skill level. He was higher rank because he had a college degree. We actually went to school together, and he was my team leader. We're on a route clearance near Kandahar, Afghanistan, and we're put in our first ever life or death situation. The engineers up in the front of the convoy had found an IED. The Buffalo couldn't dig it out. They call us EOD to get it out of the ground. And I was 22 at the time. I'd never been in a real life or death situation. And this was that time. We weren't getting shot at. There was nothing crazy. It was our job to get this bomb out of the ground. And exactly like you're saying, it was in those moments that I looked to Joe, to the other infantry guys that were around us, to our team member that was in the back getting the robot ready. We turned to each other because we were all so scared, but maybe didn't want each other to see it. So it was like, because I wanted to seem tough to Joe and tough to the other team member, I was actually scared, but we were all kind of doing that same thing to each other. So in turn, none of us were actually scared, and we were able to get the job done. So I think in those moments, it doesn't even have to be a life or death situation. That's just the most extreme example of struggle. Anytime in your life, if you're going through a struggle or a new beginning, or you're indecisive about something and you don't know what to do, there's 8 billion more minds out there in the world. You got to lean on each other to kind of get through those moments. So I just think veterans in general, military in general, has a very concentrated experience of that, having to lean on each other. But I think everyone can kind of learn from these stories.
Right. We were talking about inflection points. I bet it's important in the military today, like it was back then. But my game plan from graduating from West Point, I already had a plan. I was going to do my 5-year commitment, get out, move to Kentucky, and get a job and be near my hometown, my mom and dad and my sisters. That was my game plan. I already had it put together. I report into the 101st. I go to the battalion headquarters to sign in, and the battalion commander, Colonel Vincent Tedesco, he wants to see me. He goes, "Come in here, Lieutenant." And he sits and talks with me about the battalion. And then the sergeant major spoke with me. Then I went down to the battery and I got to meet my platoon sergeant, Rufus Allen. And from that time forward, that battalion commander, that platoon sergeant were inflection points in my life, because not only did I stay past 5, I went 32, because they made a tremendous impact. I honestly believe in today's military, I don't care what branch of service it is, that your first platoon NCO leader and your first battalion commander equivalent are going to make a tremendous impact on whether you go beyond your commitment. It is so important. And this whole thing about relationships, to this day, I still keep in contact with both of them. Every time I got promoted in the military, I thank both of them. They weren't even there. I'd still thank them because they're the ones that were the inflection points that kept me on a new trajectory that I never planned of.
I think you're right. Now I'm in a moment, I'm reflecting on my own life and my own career. I had a platoon sergeant, different one, who told me to shut up and listen. This guy had done a lot of special forces support as EOD, and he just kind of watched me throughout my 6-year time. I was at the 789th EOD in Georgia, and his name was Joshua Peltz. And I got pulled into his office one day after our deployment in 2015, and he said, "I think you would make a great candidate for special forces." And at the time, I was going to get out. I was leaning on my dad. He wanted me to go to college. He was in insurance sales, and I was going to kind of get into that. I'll just go get a MBA. I'll go sell insurance, I guess. I don't know how to do that, but I really admire my dad. I would have done anything he said. But I told him I had a platoon sergeant recommend that I go try out for special forces. And he said that would be an honor and you should do it. So like you're saying, that's a huge inflection point. If he would have never told me that, I would have gotten out at 25 years old and gone and been an insurance salesman under my father's wing, I'm sure I would have done fine, but it was his influence, like you're saying, that made me do a whole nother second half career.
Isn't it amazing how one conversation can change a whole life?
Oh yeah.
And that happens. And in this book, In the Arena, those conversations don't take place in the cheap seats.
Yeah.
They take place in the arena.
Yep.
And that's what this book is all about. It's, get in the arena. Your friends, the people that you like hanging around with, where are they? In the arena. Mm-hmm. Okay? Those are the people you want to be around. You want to be in the arena. The cheap seats, pointing fingers, how the strong man stumbled. No, that's not for neither of us. How
do you know where you're at? How are you able to look in the mirror and know if you're in the arena or in the cheap seats? I feel like that's not cut and dry.
It's. I think you're in the arena when you're a part of success or failure. You're in the arena when you're pulling 14, 15-hour days getting ready. You're in the arena when, in fact, that success or failure impacts you, impacts your family, impacts, your friends on your left and right. So you'll know it. I mean, it's very, very obvious.
I have a younger nephew. He unfortunately lost his father. He's my brother. And I kind of have a lot of motivation to guide him in a way. He's only 16. But I don't think he's alone. I think even though a lot of fathers may still be around, I think a lot of younger men, adolescent men going into early adulthood are kind of lost. They're kind of experiencing this loss of direction. Yeah. What advice would you give to teenage, early 20s, just younger men in general, don't really have it figured out yet, but they haven't really had an influence their entire life? How do they kind of get in the arena per se?
Yeah. It's... And I think if you don't have that parent structure that's there, okay, and you're out there and you feel like when you go in the arena, you're by yourself. You're not in there with other Spartans. Okay, I think what you've got to do is you've got to find, and this is all about building relationships. You got to build relationships with others. And you got to, when you pick the people, you've got to pick people that got good values. You got to pick people that have good attitudes. You got to get people that are just good to be around. Okay, because sometimes going Han Solo is not fun. It does have to happen, but it's also good to have others around you that you can ask questions and you can query on what is the right direction. And also when you see people that have done well, pull them to the side and say, hey, how did you get to where you're at? How did that happen? What did you do differently? And ask those kind of questions, because people will tell you, especially one-on-one, they'll tell you. And but at the end of the day, just keep in mind that nothing is easy. Success is not easy. Okay? It takes a lot of energy. It takes time. And like we talked about earlier in this discussion, it takes resilience and perseverance. You're going to be on that kickoff team that I talked about at the beginning of this every day. Every day you wake up, you're on the kickoff team. Okay, perseverance, resiliency. Okay, run straight downfield. Blocker in front of you, you don't go around it. You go through them. Okay, you solve your problems. You chase the ball carrier. You accomplish your mission.
I really like the part where you just mentioned to ask questions. I think people are scared to ask questions because they don't want to appear stupid. Maybe I'm sure there's a lot more into that, but in general, I just think people are fearful of asking questions because they don't want to appear unintelligent. That means implying that I'm asking this question because I don't know something. Right. Asking questions is the only way to get anywhere in life. Right. So I think just circling back to our question, if you're struggling, you don't have that leader in your life, you don't have any direction, you just got to find people that are doing what you admire or doing what you want to do. And you got to ask them questions. It's not going to appear stupid. And those people you're asking those questions are going to be elated to answer your questions. People like to answer questions.
Also, it's what you look for. You got to find yourself a good mentor.
Yeah.
And they're hard to find. But when you do find one, you latch onto them. And they're the person that's in your Rolodex or on your phone that you call periodically. Hey, I'm doing this. What do you think? What do you think about this? Okay. Again, it has a lot to do with who you hang around with. It's about relationships. And if you got relationships with the right Spartans, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Relationships are everything. How important, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but just brotherhood and camaraderie throughout your life. How salient has that been?
I've always placed value on friends and family. I think, both are just, they really make up who you are. And so what you do as you get older is you stay engaged with your friends and family. You stay engaged. You go visit. You show up. If you've got a family member that's getting married, you show up. If you got a friend that is in hospice, is struggled through a disease, guess what? You don't talk to them over Teams. You get on a plane, you fly there, you get an Uber, takes you to the hospital, you're in that room, you show up. Okay? That's what this book is about. It's about be careful on the culture of technology. Sure, technology, what it's done, it's good. Don't get me wrong. However, it separates your lives. It can separate your life from other things. And when you've got friends that need your help, you show up. And guess what? They'll never forget it.
Absolutely.
Your family. You got family that is celebrating or has a challenge. Guess what? You show up. They'll never forget it. Like I said earlier, all the glitter and gold doesn't matter. What people will remember of you is that you showed up.
One more question on leadership. What do you see, just from your experience, the next generation of leaders, maybe leaders that are lower in your company or just other companies in general? What do you think they need to learn or unlearn as times progress?
I tell you, I've run across, of course, the younger generation coming up. I've been in jobs where the average age was 68, 69 years old. I mean, there were older individuals there. And of course, these individuals are going to move on, and we got to have replacements that come up. And I think there's so many skill sets out there. Just going to college, I don't think is the ticket. I think you got to go to college to get a skill or some kind of trade to get a skill. In today's world, knowing how to repair an air conditioner, right? That is such a very, very, very good skill to have. For people that own homes, they got to replace the air conditioner or the water heater or whatever. The skill sets to repair and fix those things. They've become the next millionaires in America.
Yeah, I think so.
People that know how to use their hands and fix things. And so I think this whole job market, the ability to use your hands and the ability to fix things and the ability to teach, the ability to help others is absolutely imperative.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, what other components of your book are we missing? Is there anything else you kind of wanted to touch on?
Well, I tell you that I call the Big Eight.
Yeah.
I'll leave you with what I call the Big Eight that's in the book. The first one is prepare on paper. We talked about that. And that's about writing things down and rehearsing. Writing things down, rehearsing. If you're going to be on Teams or you're going to go to a meeting face-to-face, get your stuff written on paper. Second thing is get in the arena. Okay? Show up. But when you show up, you got to be emotionally ready. You've got to be physically ready. You've got to be mentally ready to go into the arena. Third is be a Spartan. I can't tell you how many times in the military it'd be the young trooper in the back that you hardly hear anything about, doesn't talk much, but when it came to get the mission done, that person got it done. That was a Spartan. You want to be a Spartan. You want to be one of those that people are really leaning on to get the mission accomplished. Knowing what right looks like, number 4, is knowing what right looks like. How do you know that? Experience, exposure. Experience and exposure. You got to have those two. And how do you get those two? You show up. Wearing your body armor, and we've talked about this, perseverance and resiliency. The two attributes that are incredibly important as you live through life and you go across this obstacle course. Resiliency and perseverance, your ability to continue on, to persevere, your ability to get it back on your feet. Resiliency when you get knocked down. Squint with your ears, listen. God, great attribute. Work on it. Next time I challenge it. Next time you go to a meeting, don't talk. Don't say a word. Just sit there and listen and write notes down until they come to you. And then open up with what you listened and challenges that you have, concerns that you have. Okay? Don't talk during the entire presentation and see what happens. Push down success. I tell you, when you're in an organization and your organization does well, the worst thing you can do is say, I'm glad I got that done. Okay? Take I and me out of the equation. Push success down to your people. The last one I'll leave you with, and we've talked about it, is building relationships. Building relationships. As you go through this obstacle course, you're going to meet people. You're going to have inflection points, good and not so good. But you got to build relationships. The relationships that you build will help you negotiate obstacles that are further downrange. Okay, so build relationships, absolutely key.
Yeah, this has been some great advice. Go ahead and plug your book one more time. Where can people find it? How can they identify it in stores? Well, is it in airport libraries?
It's not in the airport yet, but it's on Amazon and other those book where you can order books from. But it's on Amazon for sure.
Okay.
It's Step in the Arena, Show Up and Lead. It's not a real thick book. It's not something that is going to take you weeks to read. It won't take you long to read, but it just sends a message. And if you like it, write a comment about it. If you don't say anything about it. But thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
I'll get me a copy. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Chuck. You have quite the extensive career, and it was an honor sitting here before you.
I appreciate you inviting me. I had a real good time, and wish you the best. Thanks.
Thanks, Chuck.